Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the beautiful land of Oblivion in the not-so-beautiful house of Sickly Bernice. We're back in her tap house, and we're going to be doing a shit ton of reading. I will also mention that in between this episode and the last episode, I managed to fix the animation problem that we were having. You're not really going to... Oh, yeah, you can see it over here with the flames. Yeah, the flames look normal. Our spell goes down easily enough. The only thing I found... I don't quite recall. It's been a few weeks since the last time I played. But, like, the last... I don't know. I did the fix, but I'm like, is my jumping, has my jumping always been this ridiculous? I don't know. I did the fix... I looked it up online. I saw two different fixes that they had. The first one I tried, and then my jumping immediately after was just, like, absolutely absurd. Like, I could jump a goddamn light year. And then the second one I did was, like, an actual Oblivion mod, actually. My first mod that I've downloaded, yeah, just, it was an animation fixer. Oblivion Animation Fixer was the official name for it on the Nexus. And that really just, sped up everything. I think the only thing that's... I think the jumping is probably a little bit quicker than it should be. But, like, I also don't... Right, because I can jump faster than I can walk. Which has probably always been the case. I think that's how I kind of just hit a little pebble there. And it's always been the case, but I don't really know. Yeah, I feel like we also kind of fall faster. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't really know. Nah, it might be the same. I don't really know. It's been a little while, like I mentioned, since the last time we played. I also haven't boosted my speed nor my acrobatics yet, so actually, I think it's been a little bit since the last time we boosted anything. I don't know, but we're going to boost our speed and our acrobatics. So let's go, no, it's athletics. Athletics, 255. And we might as well just do our acrobatics at the same time. And now we can see just how fast we can move when we're absolutely maxed out. Okay. I feel like we just fall down the stairs. Yeah, like as soon as we start gaining speed going down the stairs, like at first, just a small little fall, nothing, right? But if I'm moving at a quick pace, I kind of just plunk near the end of it. I don't know why I'm plunking. Why am I plunking? Like, I suppose at one point it's just a natural run. After a little bit, it's like you're free falling. I didn't realize there was really a speed difference there. That's really strange. I'm not too sure if that's how it's always been, but yeah, we're okay. I might end up having to change that because that's kind of a bit ridiculous as far as the jump goes, right? And if I jump from up here, how far can I... Okay, well, I didn't even actually jump there, but I still made it all the way over here. I don't know. We may or may not change it. We'll see. We're not going to have to jump for a while anyway. Oh, it's so bugged. It's so bugged. I love it and I hate it. But yeah, that's not what we're doing today. We're not just fucking around, jumping around. Alright, I think the acrobatics should actually stay at normal. Athletics seems fine. Acrobatics, a bit much. Yeah. It's even now, it's still a lot. 255. A bit much. Yeah, anyway, that's gonna do it for that. Let's also... Yeah, no, that should be fine. Alright, let's check out Tap House. We'll have a seat. We'll stop dilly-dallying. And we're gonna be continuing our long grind of reading books. Oh, yes. The torture of reading never truly comes to an end. But hopefully, by the time that we finish this long journey of reading a shit ton of books right now, actually, it shouldn't be that bad. Hopefully that'll be the end of it. But I'm not quite sure. So, let's check out the list, and we'll see what the fuck we got on store for today. Sacred Witness. Where are you? Sacred Witness. 19 pages. Alright, let's do it. Sacred Witness. A true history of the Night Mother. Oh, let's see how true this actually is. See if I even know the truth. By Enric Milnes. I have met countesses and courtesans, empresses and witches, ladies of war and slatterns of peace. The fuck? But I have never met a woman like the Night Mother, and I never will again. Nor should you hope to. Unless if you're a part of the Dark Brotherhood. Maybe even not then. I am a writer, a poet of some small renown. If I told you my name, you may have heard of me, but very likely not. For decades until very recently, I had adopted the city of Sentinel on the coast of Hammerfell as my home, and kept the company of other artists, painters, tapestrists, and writers. No one I knew would have known an assassin by sight. Ah, he is a member of the Dark Brotherhood. Would you look at that? Least of all, the queen of them. Oh, okay. The blood flower, the Lady Death, the Night Mother. Not that I had not heard of her. Some years ago, I had the good fortune of meeting Perlarn Asai, a respected scholar who had come to Hammerfell to do research for a book about the Order of Diagna. I don't know. His essay, The Brothers of Darkness, I feel like we had that book. We've already read that book. Together with Ynir Gorming's Fire and Darkness, The Brotherhoods of Death, are considered to be the canon tomes on the subject of Tamriel's orders of assassins. By luck, Gorming himself was also in Sentinel, and I was privileged to sit with the two in a dark skooma den, in the musty slums of the city, as we smoked and talked about the Dark Brotherhood, the Morag Tong, and the Night Mother. While not disputing the possibility that the Night Mother may be immortal, or at least very long-lived, Asai thought it most likely that several women, and perhaps some men, throughout the ages had assumed the honorary title. Ooh, not quite. It was no more logical to say there was only one Night Mother, he asserted, than to say there was only one King of Sentinel. Gorming argued that there never was a Night Mother, at least no human one. The Night Mother was Mephala herself, whom the Brotherhood revered second only to Sithis. I don't suppose there's any way of knowing for certain, I said, in a note of diplomacy. Certainly there is, whispered Gorming with a grin. You could talk to that cloaked fellow in the corner. Oh shit. I had not noticed the man before, I had not noticed the man before, who sat by himself, eyes hidden by his cloak, seemingly as much a part of the dingy place as the rough stone and unswept floor. Turning back to Ynir, I asked him why that man would know about the Dark Brotherhood. He's a Dark Brother, hissed Pelarn Asai. That's as plain as the moon's. Don't even joke about speaking with him about her. We moved on to other arguments about the Morag Tong and the Brotherhood, but I never forgot the image of the lone man, looking at nothing and everything, in the corner of the dirty room, with fumes of skooma smoke floating around him like ghosts. When I saw him weeks later on the streets of Sentinel, I followed him. That might not be the best idea. Yes, I followed him. The reader may reasonably ask, why and how? Yet, like I just did. I don't blame you for that. How was simply a question of knowing my city as well as I do. I'm not a thief, not particularly sure-footed and quiet, but I know the alleys and streets of Sentinel intimately, from decades' worth of ambling. I know which bridges creak, which buildings cast long irregular shadows, the intervals at which the native birds begin the ululations of their evening songs. With relative ease, I kept pace with the Dark Brother and out of his sight and hearing. I feel like he probably also just knew that you were there anyway, but whatever. The answer to why is even simpler. I have the natural curiosity of the born writer. When I see a strange new animal, I must observe. It is the writer's curse. I trailed I kind of relate to that writing music, to be honest. But anyway, I trailed the cloaked man deeper into the city, down an alleyway so narrow it was scarcely a crack between two tenements, past a crooked fence, and suddenly, miraculously, I was in a place I had never seen before, a little courtyard cemetery, with a dozen old half-rotted wooden tombstones. None of the surrounding buildings had windows that faced it, so no one knew this miniature necropolis existed. No one, except the 6 men and 1 woman standing in it. And me. The woman saw me immediately, and gestured for me to come closer. I could have run, but no, I couldn't have. I had pierced a mystery right in my adopted sentinel, and I could not leave it. She knew my name, and she said it with a sweet smile. The Night Mother was a little old lady with fluffy white hair, cheeks like wrinkled apples that still carried the flush of youth, friendly eyes, blue as the Iliac Bay. She softly took my arm as we sat down amidst the graves and discussed murder. Well, okay, yeah, no, moment of astonishment of holy shit, this is actually the Night Mother, not just any random female assassin. She was not always in Hammerfell, not always available for direct assignment, but it seemed she enjoyed actually talking to her clientele. I did not come here to hire the Brotherhood, I said respectfully. Then why are you here? The Night Mother asked, her eyes never leaving mine. I told her I wanted to know about her. I did not expect an answer to that, but she told me. I do not mind the stories you writers dream up about me, she chuckled. Some of them are very amusing, and some of them are good for business. I like the sexy dark woman lounging on the divan in Karlovac townways fiction particularly. The truth is that my history would not make a very dramatic tale. I highly doubt that. I was a thief long, long ago, back when the Thieves' Guild was only beginning. It's such a bother to sneak around a house when performing a burglary, and many of us found it most efficacious to strangle the occupants of the house. Just for convenience, I suggested to the guild that a segment of our order be dedicated to the arts and sciences of murder. Who would have thunk that the Dark Brotherhood stemmed from the Thieves' Guild like that? I kind of don't believe it, but I don't know. You never really know. It did not seem like such a controversial idea to me, the Night Mother shrugged. We had specialists in cat burglary, pickpocketing, lockpicking, fencing, all the other essential parts of the job. Murder does become a very big essential part of the job, especially in Skyrim. But anyway, but the guilds thought that encouraging murder would be bad for business. Too much, they argued. They might have been right, the old woman continued, but I discovered there is a profit to be made, just the same, from sudden death. Not only can one rob the deceased, but if your victim has enemies, which rich people often do, you can be paid for it even more. I began to murder people differently when I discovered that. After I strangled them, I would put 2 stones in their eyes, one black and one white. Why? I asked. It was a sort of calling card of mine. You're a writer. Don't you want your name on your books? I couldn't use my name, but I wanted potential clients to know me and my work. I don't do it anymore. No need to. But at the time, it was my signature. Word spread, and I soon had quite a successful business. And that became the Morag Tong? I asked. Oh, dear me, no, the Night Mother smiled. The Morag Tong was around long before my time. I know I'm old, but I'm not that old. I merely hired on some of their assassins while they began to fall apart after the murder of the late potentate. They did not want to be members of the Tong anymore, and since I was the only other murderer syndicate of any note, they just joined on. I phrased my next question carefully. Will you kill me now that you've told me all this? She nodded sadly, letting out a little grandmotherly sigh. You are such a nice, polite young man. I hate to end our acquaintanceship. I don't suppose you would agree to a concession or two in exchange for your life, would you? To my everlasting shame, I did agree. I said I would say nothing about our meeting, which, as the reader can see, was a promise I eventually, years later, chose not to keep. Why have I endangered my life thus? Because of the promises I did keep. I helped the Night Mother and the Dark Brotherhood in acts too despicable, too bloody for me to set to paper. My hand quivers as I think about the people I betrayed, beginning with that night. I tried to write my poetry, but ink seemed to turn to blood. Finally, I fled, changing my name, going to a land where no one would know me. And I wrote this, the true history of the Night Mother, from the interview she gave me on the night we met. It will be the last thing I ever write, this I know, and every word is true. Pray for me. Editor's note. Though originally published anonymously, the identity of the author has never been in serious doubt. Any layman familiar with the work of the poet Enric Milnes will recognize Sacred Witness's familiar cadence and style in such books of his as The Alakir. Shortly after publication, Milnes was murdered, and his killer was never found. He had been strangled, and 2 stones, a black one and a white one, crushed into his eye sockets. very brutally. Well, it's a good way to just absolutely confirm everything in the book, but yeah. Alright. Well, R.I.P. my dude. Doing some terrible shit to find out the truth for people. Was it worth it? I don't know. Probably not, in his opinion. But hey. Alright, Ruins of Kemel-Ze, 35 pages. God fucking damn. Alright, let's do it. This will be the last book. The Ruins of Kemel-Ze by Rollard Nordsen. With the acclamations of the Fellows of the Imperial Society still ringing in my ears, I decided to return to Morrowind immediately. It was not without some regret that I bade farewell to the flesh pots of the Imperial City, but I knew that the wonders I had brought back from Raled Makai had only scratched the surface of the Dwemer ruins in Morrowind. Even more spectacular treasures were out there, I felt, just waiting to be found, and I was eager to be off. I also had before me the salutary example of poor Bannerman, who was still dining out on his single expedition to Black Marsh 20 years ago. That would never be me, I vowed. With my letter from the Empress in hand, this time I would have the full cooperation of the Imperial authorities. No more need to worry about attacks from superstitious locals. But where should I look next? The ruins at Kemel-Ze were the obvious choice. Unlike Raled Makai, getting to the ruins would not be a problem. Also known as the Cliff City, Kemel-Ze lies on the mainland side of the Vardenfell Rift, sprawling down the sheer coastal cliff. Travelers from the east coast of Vardenfell often visit the site by boat, and it can also be reached overland from the nearby villages without undue hardship. Once the expedition had assembled in Seda Neen, with the usual tedious complications involved in operating in this half-civilized land. Why are you coming after Morrowind like that, bruh? We set out for the village of Morag near the ruins, where he hoped to hire a party of diggers. My interpreter, Tuin Panay, an unusually jolly fellow for a dark elf who I had hired in Seda Neen at the recommendation of the local garrison commander, assured me that the local villagers would be very familiar with Kemel-Ze, having looted the sites for generations. Incidentally, Tenpenny, as we soon came to call him, to his constant amusement, proved invaluable, and I would recommend him without hesitation to any of my colleagues who were planning similar expeditions to the wilds of Morrowind. At Morag, we ran into our first trouble. The hetman of the village, a reserved, elegant old fellow, seemed willing to cooperate, but the local priest, a representative of the absurd religion they have here, worshipping something called the Tribunal, who they claim actually live in palaces in Morrowind, was fervently against us excavating the ruins. He looked likely to sway the villagers to his side with his talk of religious taboos, but I waved the Empress's letter under his nose and mentioned something about my friend, the garrison commander at Seda Neen, and he quieted right down. No doubt this was just a standard negotiating tactic arranged among the villagers to increase their pay. In any event, once the priest had stalked off muttering to himself, no doubt calling down curses upon the heads of the foreign devils, we soon had a line of villagers eager to sign on to the expedition. While my assistant was working out the mundane details of contracts, supplies, etc., Master Arum and I rode on to the ruins. By land, they can only be reached using narrow paths that wind down the face of the cliff from above, where any misstep threatens to send one tumbling into the sea foaming about the jagged rocks below. The city's original entrance to the surface must have been in the part of the city to the northeast, the part that fell into the sea long ago, when the eruption of Red Mountain created this mind-bogglingly vast crater. After successfully navigating the treacherous path, we found ourselves in a large chamber, open to the sky on one side, disappearing into the darkness on the other. As we stepped forward, our boots crunched on piles of broken metal, as common in dwarven ruins as potsherds in other ancient sites. This was obviously where the looters brought their finds from deeper levels, stripping off the valuable outer casings of the dwarven mechanisms and leaving their innards here, easier than lugging the intact mechanisms back up to the top of the cliff. I laughed to myself, thinking of the many warriors unwittingly walking around Tamriel with pieces of dwarven mechanisms on their backs, for that, of course, is what most dwarven armor really is, just the armored shells of ancient mechanical men. I sobered when I thought of how exceedingly valuable an intact mechanism would be. This place was obviously full of dwarven devices, judging from the litter covering the floor of this vast chamber. Or had been, I reminded myself. Looters had been working over this site for centuries. Just the casing alone would be worth a small fortune, sold as armor. Most dwarven armor is made of mismatched pieces from various devices, hence its reputation for being bulky and unwieldy. But a match set from an intact mechanism is worth more than its weight in gold, for the pieces all fit together smoothly, and the wearer hardly notices the bulk. Of course, I had no intention of destroying my finds for armor, no matter how valuable. I would bring it back to the Society for Scientific Study. I imagined the astonished cries of my colleagues as I unveiled it at my next lecture, and smiled again. I picked up a discarded gear from the piles at my feet. It still gleamed brightly, as if new-made, the dwarven alloys resisting the corrosion of time. I wondered what secrets remained hidden in the maze of chambers that lay before me, defying the efforts of looters, waiting to gleam again in the light they had not seen in long eons. Waiting for me, it remained only to find them. With an impatient gesture to Master Arum to follow, I strode forward into the gloom. Master Arum, Tenpenny, and I spent several days exploring the ruins while my assistants set up camp at the top of the cliff and hauled supplies and equipment from the village. I was looking for a promising area to begin excavation, a blocked passage or corridor untouched by looters that might lead to completely untouched areas of the ruins. We found 2 such areas early on, but soon discovered that the many winding passages bypassed the blockage and gave access to the rooms behind. Nevertheless, even these outer areas, for the most part stripped clean of artifacts by generations of looters, were full of interest to the professional archaeologist. Behind a massive bronze door, burst from its hinges by some ancient turmoil of the earth, we discovered a large chamber filled with the exquisite wall carvings, which impressed even the jaded Tenpenny, who claimed to have explored every dwarven ruin in Morrowind. That sounds a lot like me. Except that I have yet to play Morrowind, but Skyrim and Oblivion, yes. They seem to depict an ancient ritual of some kind, with a long line of classically bearded dwarven elders processing down the side walls, all seemingly bowing to the giant form of a god carved into the front wall of the chamber, which was caught in the act of stepping forth from the crater of a mountain in a cloud of smoke or steam. According to Master Arum, there are no known depictions of dwarven religious rituals, so this was an exciting find indeed. I set a team to work prying the carving panels from the wall, but they were unable to even crack the surface. On closer examination, the chamber appeared to be faced with the metallic substance, with the texture and feel of stone, impervious to any of our tools. I considered having Master Arum try his blasting magic on the walls, but decided that the risk of destroying the carvings was too great. Much as I would have preferred to bring them back to the Imperial City, I had to settle for taking rubbings of the carvings. If my colleagues in the society showed enough interest, I was sure a specialist could be found, perhaps a master alchemist, who could find a way to safely remove the panels. I found another curious room at the top of a long winding stair, barely passable due to the fall of rubble from the roof. I wonder if this is a place that you can actually explore in Morrowind. At the top of the stair was a domed chamber with a large ruined mechanism at its center. Painted constellations were still visible in some places on the surface of the dome. Master Arum and I agreed that this must have been some kind of observatory, and the mechanism was therefore the remains of a dwarven telescope. To remove it from ruins down the narrow stairway would require its complete disassembly, which fact no doubt had preserved it from the attention of looters. So I decided to leave it in place. God, you're not taking anything, bruh. For the time being. The existence of this observatory suggested, however, that this room had once been above the surface. Closer examination of the structure revealed that this was indeed a building, not an excavated chamber. The only other doorways from the room were completely blocked, and careful measurements from the top of the cliff to the entry room and then to the observatory revealed that we were still more than 250 feet below the present ground level, a sobering reminder of the forgotten fury of Red Mountain. 250 feet, that's crazy. This discovery led us to focus our attentions downward. Since we now knew approximately where the ancient surface lay, we could rule out many of the higher blocked passages. One wide passage, impressively flanked with carven pillars, particularly drew my interest. It ended at a massive rock fall, but we could see where looters had begun and then abandoned a tunnel through this debris. With my team of diggers and Master Arum's Majory to assist, I believed we could succeed where our predecessors had failed. I therefore set my team of dark elves to work on clearing the passage, relieved finally to be beginning the real exploration of Kemel-Ze. Soon, I hoped, my boots would be stirring up dust that had lain undisturbed since the dawn of time. With this exciting prospect before me, I may have driven my diggers a bit too hard. Tenpenny reported that they were beginning to grumble about the long days, and that some were talking of quitting. Knowing from experience that nothing puts heart back into these dark elves like a taste of the lash, I had the ringleaders whipped and the rest confined to the ruins until they had finished clearing the passageway. Wow, what great work conditions! Just, oh my god, you complain? Let's make their lives even fucking worse, so they all just want to fucking kill themselves. Wow, what a guy. Thanks, Stendar, for my foresight in requisitioning a few legionnaires from Seda Neen. They were solely at first, but with the promise of an extra day's wages when they broke through, they soon set to work with a will. While these measures may sound harsh to my readers back in the comforts of civilization, yeah, let me assure you that there is in no other... Wait, what? While these measures may sound harsh to my readers back in the comforts of civilization, yeah, let me assure you that there is no other way to get these people to stick to a task. You didn't even try, bruh. You didn't even try. Okay. That is fucked up, my dude. Even if that... God, alright. The blockage was much worse than I had first thought, and in the end it took almost 2 weeks to clear the passage. The diggers were as excited as I was when the picks finally broke through the far end into emptiness, and we shared a round of the local liquor together. A foul concoction, in truth. They didn't want to, kill you at that point? No? Okay. To show that all was forgiven. I don't know about that. You were the one who's acting as if all was forgiven, bruh. I don't know if that's the case for them. But sure, okay, whatever you want to tell yourself. I could hardly restrain my eagerness as they enlarged the hole to allow entry into the chamber beyond. Would the passage lead to entire new levels of the ancient city? Imagine if it just looped back to a different section. Filled with artifacts left by the vanished dwarves. Or would it only be a dead end? Some side passage leading nowhere. My excitement grew as I slid through the hole and crouched for a moment in the darkness beyond. From the echoing sounds of the stones rattling beneath my feet, I was in a large room, perhaps very large. I stood up carefully and unhooded my lantern. As the light flooded the chamber, I looked around in astonishment. Here were wonders beyond even my wildest dreams. As the light from my lamp filled the chamber beyond the rock fall, I looked around in astonishment. Everywhere was the warm glitter of dwarven alloys. I had found an untouched section of the ancient city. My heart pounding with excitement, I looked around me. The room was vast, the roof soaring up into darkness beyond the reach of my lamp, the far end lost in shadows with only a tantalizing glimmer hinting at treasures not yet revealed. Along each wall stood rows of mechanical men, intact except for one oddity. Their heads had been ritually removed and placed on the floor at their feet. This could mean only one thing. I had discovered the tomb of a great dwarven noble, maybe even a king. Burials of this type had been discovered before, most famously by Ransom's expedition to Hammerfell, but no completely intact tomb had ever been found, until now. But if this was truly a royal burial, where was the tomb? I stepped forward gingerly, the rows of headless bodies standing silently as they had for eons, their disembodied eyes seeming to watch me as I passed. I had heard wild tales of the curse of the dwarves, but had always laughed it off as superstition. But now, breathing the same air as the mysterious builders of the city, which had lain undisturbed since the cataclysm that spelled their doom, I felt a twinge of fear. There was some power here, I felt, something malevolent that resented my presence. I stopped for a moment and listened. All was silent, except it seemed I heard a faint hiss. Oh boy. Oh, I've heard that hiss in Skyrim before. Oh boy. Regular as breathing, maybe not. I fought down a sudden surge of panic. I was unarmed, not thinking of danger in my haste to explore past the blocked passage, you idiot. Sweat dripped down my face as I scanned the gloom for any movement. The room was warm, I suddenly noticed, much warmer than the rest of the labyrinth thus far. My excitement returned. Could I have found a section of the city still connected to a functional steam grid? Pipes ran along the walls, as in all sections of the city. I walked over and placed my hand on one. It was hot, almost too hot to touch. Now I saw that in places where the ancient piping had corroded, small jets of steam were escaping. The sound I had heard. Oh, lucky boy. You don't want it to be the other hissing sound that you might hear playing Skyrim. I laughed at my own credulity. I now advanced quickly to the far end of the room, giving a cheerful salute to the ranks of mechanical soldiers who had appeared so menacing only moments before. I smiled with triumph as the light swept back into the darkness of centuries to reveal the giant effigy of a dwarven king standing on a raised dais. His metal hand clutching his rod of office. This was the prize indeed. I circled the dais slowly, admiring the craftsmanship of the ancient dwarves. The Golden King stood 20 feet tall under a freestanding domed cupola? I don't know. His long, unswept beard jutting forward proudly, as his glittering metal eyes seemed to follow me. But my superstitious mood had passed, and I gazed benevolently on the old dwarven king. My king, as I had already begun to think of him. I stepped onto the dais to get a better look at the sculptured armor. Suddenly, the eyes of the figure opened, and it raised a mailed fist to strike. I leaped to one side as the golden arm came crashing down, striking sparks from the steps where I had stood a moment before. With the hiss of steam and the whir of gears, the giant figure stepped ponderously out from under its canopy and strode towards me with frightening speed, its eyes tracking me as I scrambled backwards. I dodged behind a pillar as the fist whistled down again. I had dropped my lantern in the confusion, and now I crept into the darkness outside the pool of light, hoping to slip between the headless mechanisms and thus escape back to the safety of the passageway. Where had the monster gone? You would think that a 20-foot golden kind would be hard to miss, but he was nowhere to be seen. The guttering lamp only illuminated a small part of the room. He could be hiding anywhere in the gloom. I crawled faster. Without warning, the dim ranks of dwarven soldiers in front of me went flying as the monstrous guardians loomed before me. He had cut off my escape. As I dodged backwards, blow after blow whistled down as the implacable machine followed me relentlessly, driving me into the far corner of the room. At last, there was nowhere left for me to go. My back was to the wall. I glared up at my foe, determined to die on my feet. The huge fists lifted for one final blow. The room blazed with sudden light. Bolts of purple energy crackled across the metal carapace of the dwarven monster, and it halted, half turning to meet this new threat. Master Arum had come. I was about to raise a chair when the giant figure turned back to me, unharmed by the lightning bolt hurled by Master Arum, determined to destroy this first intruder. I shouted again, "Steam! Steam!" as the giant raised his fist to crush me into the floor. There was a hiss and a gust of bitter cold, and I looked up. The monster was now covered with a shell of ice, frozen in the very moment of dispatching me. Master Rum had understood. I leaned against the wall with relief. The ice cracked above me. The giant golden king stood before me, the shell of ice falling away, his head swiveling towards me in triumph. Was there no stopping this dwarven monstrosity? But then the lights faded from his eyes, and his arms dropped to his sides. The magical frost had worked, cooling its steam-driven energy. As Master Rum and the diggers crowded around me, congratulating me on my narrow escape, my thoughts drifted. I imagined my return to the Imperial City, and I knew that this would be my greatest triumph yet. How could I possibly top this find? Perhaps it was time to move on, recovering the fabled Eye of Argonia. Now that would be a coup. I smiled to myself, reveling in the glory of the moment, but already planning my next adventure. Wow! You know, we come across those steam atronach... what the fuck are they called? I forget what the... Dwarven atron? No, I forget what the fuck they're called. But we run into those pretty damn often in Skyrim, I'm not gonna lie. Assuming it is describing the same thing that I am imagining. But, yeah. That is another 2 books off of the list. Let me check those off, and then we'll get a count for how many books we have remaining. Alright, from the base game, we have 11 more books to go. And then we have another 22 from the expansion. So, that's going to do it for this video. I think I'm going to drop off a bunch of those books, actually, so I can get rid of some shit in my inventory. God, I move so fucking fast. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. So thank you for watching. Don't forget, I might actually slow myself down. I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video, where we're going to be doing more reading. Yeah, till then. Once again.
Cause I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you. Cause I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you.